So the other day I'm talking with an entrepreneur and he's talking about this business that he wants to launch, but he's afraid because if you're paying attention last week, and I don't know when you're listening to this, but you have no context, but last week the stock market did a whoopsie daisy. It kind of did a big old crash, and it sparked all sorts of questions about impending recession and global calamity, all these things. And maybe if you're listening to this in the future, you know better than I do, who is living through it in this moment, whether or not it in fact was the Armageddon and end times. You know better than I do. But all I can say to this gentleman who was afraid, he's like, well, I don't know if right now is the best time to launch this business given the market, stock market being frothy. I'm starting to think maybe I should just hold on to my cash and wait a little bit longer for things to settle down and then launch it. And my stance on this, because I've been hearing this for a very long time, not just in the context of this last week, but within the context of real estate for the last 15 years, it feels like everybody is always trying to time the market and saying now is not a good time. If you got into real estate in 2011, you would have said, no, it's not. We're at all-time lows. We're coming out of the great financial crisis. This is not a good time to be buying. It's very hard to get debt because the banks aren't lending and all these things, all sorts of reasons you could have generated to say now is not a good time. Fast forward 5, 6, 7 years to 2016, 2017, 2018. Everybody's like, oh, now markets are raging. The prices are way too high. You should definitely not get in right now because this bubble's about to burst, baby. Well, if you had gotten in 2016, well, you would look back in 2021, 2022 at all-time highs with debts like at 0%. You'd been like, oh my God, that would have been the best time anybody has ever gotten into real estate. I would have made a ton of money. And again, 2021, 2022, very interesting time. We go from being in a zero debt, 0% interest environment all the way up to like a 5, 6, 7% environment, right? So now you would say the same exact thing. Now's not a good time. It's too frothy. Interest rates are going through the moon. Who knows what's going to happen? Values are dropping, right? You can always find a reason to say now is not the right time. You can always find a reason. That's the point here. And at some point, you have to start realizing it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. And when it comes to a business, the 3 things you have to ask yourself is, given where the market cycle is right now, do I have the right skills, resources, and business plan? And if you do, you can make money regardless of what the market's doing. If you have the right skills, right resources, right business plan. Now, that's not to say that the business plan should just stay static, be the same, right? The business plan that you execute in 2011 is different than the one in 2016, different than in 2021, and different than in 2024. The business plan, your skills, and your resources need to grow, they need to adapt, and you need to play the game as the game unfolds. That means different strategies given what the environment is giving you. But that doesn't mean you should sit out the game, because you cannot win while sitting in the bleachers. You have to be on the field responding to what the opposition is giving you. You have to be striving and trying, and that is how you will build the thing. Now, as I was talking with this entrepreneur gentleman, what really came out was the fact that he was using this as an excuse. Fear makes cowards of us all, as Vince Lombardi said. But it wasn't for the reasons that he was initially suggesting. He was trying to use the market as the scapegoat for the reason why he shouldn't launch this thing. But the reality was this. When I probed him on this, what really came out was that he already had another business. And this new business he wanted to launch was a bolt-on. It was in addition to this other thing. His real concern was that he wasn't going to have the time, the energy, and the resources to focus on both of those. And I go, oh, well, this is an entirely different question. This has nothing to do with the market cycles. This has everything to do with you getting shiny object syndrome and not focusing on the things that are right in front of you. You have this business over here and you're afraid you're not gonna have the time and the energy, the resources to do both things. Well, guess what? You don't. You don't have time and energy and focus to do the 2 things. You have to stay in one lane or the other, build the team around you that run the thing for you so that you can then pull out and focus over here. You only have so much energy to go around. And the classic mistake entrepreneurs make is trying to launch too many things too soon without having actually built the machine in a self-sustaining manner. And that is a great way to make sure that both things hit the glass ceiling, and in a lot of cases, they just end up collapsing in on themselves. Don't make that mistake and don't use the market as an excuse for not doing the thing. Get clear about what the actual problem is. And that was really the end state that we landed on with this gentleman. Wasn't, hey, you need to get better at identifying like what the actual problems are in your business. Because right now you're falsely attributing this reason as the reason you're not growing, or this thing over here or that thing. You need to get better as an entrepreneur at self-identifying what are the constraints in the system, what is the actual problem. Because as they say, a problem well defined is half solved. So that's going to do it for me, guys and gals. Take that and ask yourself, what are the problems that I am actually facing in my business? Piggyback on that. Are you sitting out right now, not getting into the market, not starting that business, not buying that real estate because you think right now is the wrong time? Well, how would you flip that? How would you invert that? And what would you have to have in terms of skills, resources, and business plan to make right now the absolute perfect time to get in? That's the question. That right there is the $1 million question. So go answer it. I'll see you guys in the next episode.